Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. My name's Clayton at Clayt's AFC, and as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not joined by Nima. I'm joined by regular and long-time listener FPL Kroner, who goes by the name of Pontus. Welcome, Pontus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pod debut. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. A bit nervous. Not used to speaking English, but it will be fine.
Yeah, no, your English is very, very good. And like I said, obviously you're long-term listener, one of the most regular listeners of the pod. So always appreciate your support and delighted to finally have you on. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
And do you mind telling me a bit about bit about yourself even? So I guess how long have you been an Arsenal fan? How did you get into Arsenal? Favorite player?
Yeah, absolutely. Been an Arsenal fan from as long as I can remember. I started remember football, like watching football, like World Cup 2002, I think,
Nice.
around that time. And Freddie Ljungberg was
Being
an Arsenal
being
player.
Swedish, of course.
So I saw him with the Invincible poster on my wall at home. So basically, through him, I became an Arsenal fan and been ever since.
Oh, amazing. Do you have a favorite Freddie Ljungberg memory in particular? Scoring at
Not
Old
really.
Trafford to win the league, help us win the league, maybe?
I think I'm on the limit of remembering that.
Sure.
So, favorite player, I would say Fabregas, because he's more like my generation when I grew
Okay.
up and started
Interesting.
watching more regularly.
Okay, fair play. Nice. And what have you made of the season so far?
Mixed. I'm not really sure how I'm feeling because, like, as you and Nima often talk about, it doesn't feel the same like last season. Maybe
Yeah.
because we have higher expectations, so we are a bit disappointed because it isn't as free flowing, or yeah, we're disappointed when we drop points last season. If we had this point total, we probably would have been super happy and excited anyway. But now we're like, fuck, City have dropped the points here and there, and we're still behind them, and we wanted to be ahead when they drop points. So I'm not really sure how I think.
No, fair enough. It's definitely a very different season. I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of level of expectation has just gone through the roof. And I
Yeah,
feel it on match days when I'm there now. Like Saturday 3 o'clock games at Arsenal for me at home have always been one of my favorite days out. And it's always a big social, go meet my friends for breakfast, go to the pub. The vibe's always good. At home, you back us to beat most teams, so we tend to win. You then go out after and stuff. And even on Saturday for the Burnley game, it just felt so flat everywhere. And obviously, before our game, Spurs lost, so the vibe was good in the pubs
yeah.
and stuff. And walking across the bridge to the stadium, you heard people cheering, and you're thinking, okay, like what's going on there? And then you get into the stadium, and everything was just flat. And I think it's just become routine now, which is obviously on one hand great because it shows the level of dominance and how good we are. But on the other, it's a bit anticlimactic that just turning up to games expecting to win and then go home sort of thing. So
Yeah,
it's
and
definitely different. Oh, sorry,
from
go on.
watching on the TV, it feels a bit like anxious almost. Like
Yeah.
we are nervous because when the goal isn't coming, we're not. Oh no, we're going to drop point. It feels like that the fans are like, when are we going to score? Oh no, we're not going to score. So it becomes a bit quiet.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that's changed from last season, I think, especially my memory of the first half of last season where it was you're rocking up and I think there wasn't that expectation and it was just a big party. That's how I can
Yeah,
describe it. And the football was free flowing and stuff. And the crowd was behind everyone. People were making mistakes and the crowd would then chant their name. But it's hard to compare because I think naturally that level of
different
expectation
expectations.
has changed. Yeah. And if we want to go and win every competition that we're left in, this is the reality of how the teams we're going to play and the way
Yeah,
they set up. Obviously, then influences how we approach that. But so with that in mind, let's go on to the actual reviewing of the game. So lineup came out. And for those listening on the podcast, the graphic we've got on the screen is obviously the lineup from the Burnley game. So in case you need a reminder, it was David Raya in goal. There was no Ben White. So it was Tomiyasu at right back. The rest of the back four was Saliba, Gabriel, and Zinchenko. So 2 goals coming from the back four. Midfield 3 was Jorginho, Declan Rice, and Kai Havertz, who I'm sure we'll talk about. And then the front 3 was Martinelli, Trossard, and Saka. Was there any standout performers for you from the team?
I think same as everyone. Zinchenko, Saliba, and Trossard, I think was great.
Yeah. What do you think of Trossard in the false 9 generally?
A bit like you, I like him because he is similar to Jesus. We get the more dynamic style, fluid with Eddie. He's brilliant 9, but not as comfortable going deep and interchanging with the wingers. I like Trossard as false 9.
Yeah, I think he just ties everything so nicely. And that's what I've said previously, what you've just said. I just feel like, stylistically, he is the closest that we have to Jesus. And I think it helps the fluidity, essentially. I think
Definitely.
Just echo what you said. I think Nketiah is fantastic in the box as a number 9, but does he knit the whole attack together? Probably not. And that's not a fault of him. It's just people's strengths and stuff, right? You mentioned Zinchenko and Saliba as well. These sort of games just feel like they suit Zinchenko to a T, right?
Yeah, definitely. And especially we had a ball, they barely posed a threat, like offensively. It felt like we could do anything, pass around him. And we know how good technically he is. So he had the time on the ball and they couldn't really get to him.
Yeah, he just floats around the pitch effortlessly. And I think I know on one hand, a lot of our fan base, and myself included, sometimes gets a bit frustrated with the kind of Hollywood passing. But when it comes off and he breaks lines with ease and he progresses the ball really high up and covers a lot of meters through his passes, and then he puts us in a different zone to then go off and attack. He's phenomenal. And his goal amazing. Was just... I actually watched The Karate Kid the other night. Nothing to do with Zinchenko, just pure coincidence. But fantastic goal as well.
Brilliant.
And and you mentioned Saliba as well. He's another one. Every week... and I'm conscious it was Burnley, and sure, they didn't have the best attackers in the world out there to judge him on, but every week he just looks like he's a level above everyone. And from my seat in the ground, I couldn't actually see his goal properly. I thought it was an own goal or something. So when I saw him running off celebrating, I was really confused on what happened.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but another top class performance from him. And I want to get your opinion on Kai Havertz. So what did you think of him in the game?
A bit of a passenger, I felt this game. He has been better lately. I feel like found his space a bit more, but a bit of a passenger. Had some success with Saka combining with him, but not as good as he has been versus Sevilla. And so back to his normal self, I guess.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. As I like you, I thought against Sevilla he was better. Newcastle, I actually thought he was pretty good in that right half space. And as you know, I've been quite critical of him this season. But it's games like this and Sheffield United where I think the bar needs to be higher for him, and he needs to demand more. And what minute did he get subbed off as well? I've just got my notes in front of me. 59th minute he was subbed, and I just feel like that against the team that's probably going to get relegated, you just have to be doing better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like in the games where we want him to be very involved in our attack, like when we possession games, he hasn't been very good at all this season. But like when we are a bit more open, we can transition games.
Yeah,
I've liked him more. But you feel like he should be good in these tight games where there are deep blocks as well, because he's quick, He's technically good. So I just don't know why it isn't clicking. Because I feel like it should.
Yeah, it's like on paper, he fits the idea of what you think he
Yeah,
can be, and then the reality is a little bit different. And yeah, I think the constant theme from me this season has been the kind of urgency and off the ball movement going forward, and that's the thing that I don't see. I think defensively, he is absolutely I think he's
incredible.
very good defensively.
Yeah,
Yeah, very good at winning the ball back. I think he presses really intelligently as well. It's just
yeah. From both when he plays it a bit deeper when Odegaard is fit, and now when he presses as the front two, he
yeah,
does both roles very well.
yeah.
But
Because I
like,
think sorry, go on.
but like you say, like on the ball and movements to get into space, etc. I am starting to be with you. At first, I was like, yeah, give him a few games, but now he needs to do more. Like something isn't there.
Yeah. Do you think it will come good? What do you think needs to happen for him to really win over everyone? Let's say.
Yeah, like to win over everyone. Obviously, goals and assists. Like because we know
Yeah.
how people judge football. It's goals and
Yeah.
assists
Very output
in the
driven.
end.
Yeah.
But like for me, like just be more involved in every game, not just shine sometimes in 30 minutes of game, like be involved in 70, 80, 90 minutes, make a statement. And yeah, goals and assists. It feels too basic to say he needs a goal or an assist to get going, but it feels like that. But maybe that's because we want an easy solution. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm with you. I sometimes think the same, but then I think he literally scored a penalty against
Yeah,
Bournemouth and then nothing happened. So yeah, it's obviously as a fan, like we all want the best for him, and you can tell in the was it the it was the Sevilla game where he had that was it Sevilla or Newcastle where he took the shot from outside the box and it was curling. I want to say it was Seville.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, there was that, and against Sheffield United in the final few minutes, he was running in on his right hand, on his right foot. He took a shot and it hit the side netting, and everyone's like trying to get behind him, but yeah, it's not quite there. And I don't want to make this the Kai Havertz show when we won 3-1. It's just something that it's the
Yeah,
obvious elephant in the room every
yeah,
time we talk
absolutely.
Arsenal.
Just look at what you say, grading scores. He's the lowest on orange. Everyone else is green, or
Yeah.
so it's hard to not look at him and question it.
Yeah, very true. And yeah, is there anyone else you want to discuss before we go into the kind of general summary of the match and look at a bit
I
more of the
guess
stats?
Saka has been a talk on Twitter. I've seen, like, because recently we have had some tough games, so maybe that can explain. But XG and XGI wise, he hasn't been as high up as normally. It's been pretty low. I think 0, 15, 0, like
Yeah.
not high. So, but I think it's Twitter talk. Sometimes that just happens. He's still been involved in the goals. 4 games. It's extremely small sample size. People
Yeah.
overreact and like want to create an issue where there isn't one.
I think it's one of those as well. You look at I think this will be the theme this season, and we'll touch on it later with one of the graphics we've got lined up. But we get into really good areas, and then teams are actually very good at suffocating and nullifying
Yeah,
space in the areas we want to then access. And it feels like it's just a catch-22, really, in terms of you see it. I think it's night and day with our wingers in Europe versus in the Premier League and the way
yeah,
teams
yeah,
set up. Right? And that's why, in my opinion, it's nothing to do with Saka or Martinelli. It's just the way teams set up, and that teams are really clever at shortening the spaces in the key
yeah.
areas that we try to occupy in that final third. Yeah. Well, any more before we go into the match stats?
No, not really. I think we've covered the key performers.
Cool. So yeah, narrative of the game. So it was one of those where okay, so stats was in terms of XG, so all of the stats are taken from Mark, our stats bot, which we use every week. And yeah, the XG according to his model was 2.81 to 0.31. The threat was 2.26 to 0.75. Possession 62.8 to 37.2. Field tilt champions 77.9 to 22.1.
Yeah.
And then defensive action height was at 50.7 to 35.7. And it's everything statistically pointed to dominance. And it was one of those that, on paper and statistically, we were in cruise control. Did you feel that way before the first goal?
Yeah, I kind of did, like a bit slow, like you can see on the stats here. It's not extremely high, and it pops up a bit with the goal, but it felt like we were just feeling them out, trying to see where the space would open up and try not force it, like just wait, be patient, roll it around, go back and forth to try and find the opening.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, to be honest. And it was one of the do you know what? Credit to Burnley as well. I actually thought they set up really well. And given without sounding patronising, given the quality of their playing staff available, and there's a golf in quality there, right? But the way Company tactically set them up, I thought was really impressive. And it made us work for it. And I think that's another thing, like you just like you just said, and the graphic illustrates. If you look at the XG, the threat, it was just a slow kind of jab. It was like we were moving them around, trying to fill them out. They would have occasions where they would get the ball and ping a sequence together, but we weren't really creating anything of note until the Trossard chance, which even that was quite a I mean, fair play. It was very brave of him to go for it. And yeah, like you say, the XG kind of shoots up with that chance. But it was one of the I hate cliches, but I'm not smart enough to think of anything other than a cliche. It just felt like the right time to score. I could sense the frustration in the crowd in where we were moving the ball, not really getting anywhere. Burnley were suffocating the central areas. We were going out wide and they were doubled up. And it was the story that we've seen so much in the last 18 months, since the back end of last season sort of thing.
And it's a cliche for a reason. I feel like sometimes it's just a cliche for a reason. Sometimes it's a cliche for a reason. Like, there are truths to them, boring, but something like I felt like I want to go before halftime. Like it shouldn't really matter because we still got 45 minutes to go, but like it feels like versus low block bottom half teams, like probably going to struggle to stay up. If you don't get to go before halftime, they can hype themselves up a bit in the 50 minutes and just push on even better second half. So
exactly,
the goal felt very important.
Yeah, and just before we go on to the rest of the game, we've got a couple of the lads in the chat. So we've got Hassan. Yes, lads, just got on now. So hey mate, hope you're good. Hassan's joined us before as well. We've got my man Bobby Love in the house. Mandem, hope you're good, Bobby. Not seen Bobby in a long time. So yeah, hope you're good, mate. Cheers for joining in, lads. Let us know what you thought of the game. And what you think of the season so far as well. And if you've got any questions for Pontus, drop them in because we'll be doing a Q&A at the end, depending on the time. So yeah, drop in any questions you got. But yeah, so Trossard got his goal. That was a really anticlimactic moment because I didn't know what was going on in the stadium. I thought, has it been ruled out for something? Is it going to VAR? And yeah, because he scored and then the whole crowd celebrated and then kind of stopped. And you could see the players hesitating and stuff. And then, he got up, he was fine. And then you had Rice getting everyone going. And I want to say Saka as well. But thank God he was fine.
Yeah, you got a little bit worried because like if he held his arm like, in a sling. So you're like, ooh, that usually isn't a good sign. Like it's something with the shoulder. And if it's the shoulder, they often take them off because they can get aggravated and get worse pretty easily.
Yeah.
But when he started touching his arm, I felt like, oh, maybe that was an impact with the post or something that could just get better as during the halftime.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, proved to be the case. Obviously, he
Yeah.
came back out, and yeah, he was fine. And well, I was about to jump the gun there. I was about to talk about his assist for Saliba from the corner, but before that, we come out half time. How did you think we were playing for that 10 minutes after half time, just before that Brownhill scored? How did you think we kind of came out second half?
A bit like nonchalant. Like we felt we
Interesting.
had won the game, like still controlling the game, but like felt like bit lower tempo, not as much, yeah, a bit slower, not as much moving them around, like not purpose with the passes, more like, yeah, we pass it to the guy who's free and not trying to create something.
Yeah.
Was my feeling.
Yeah, I felt the same, and like I'll be honest, I don't get me wrong, I didn't think a Burnley goal was coming. It was just more,
Yeah,
are we going to do enough to really put this game to bed like we did against Sheffield United? And
yeah.
did you think it was a foul? So going to the Burnley goal, did you think it was a foul on Tomiyasu?
Like it's one if it's given, yeah, but like he pulls. I don't know the Burnley player's name, but like he pulls his shirt as well. So it's like VAR ain't gonna step in because both are pulling each other. So it's basically yes, the incident that happens. So no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a foul for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those. If it's given, I can kind of understand it, but
Yeah,
yeah, I wasn't losing any sleep over it, and it was just. I love Tommy, but I just feel like he had to be a bit stronger there, to be honest, and clear his
yeah,
lines.
definitely. Yeah,
But yeah, then obviously the ball comes in, we half clear it, and then it ricochets in, and I'm thinking, for fuck's sake, like I'm literally just sat here
yeah,
thinking this is going to be one of those days. And then we come out and we straight away, almost, it was like 3 minutes after we go, we get a corner. And like I said, I was confused who scored, but it turned out to be Saliba when I heard everyone singing his name and I saw him running off like a madman. So yeah, that
yeah,
was a really good instant response, and that felt like more the Arsenal of last season. When we conceded, we would bounce back and we would
yeah,
score within a few minutes, and it was nice because I feel like this game and other games of similar nature, it's like we said, we're not scoring as freely and the chances aren't coming. So it was nice to just go off, get a corner, score a goal, and then have the game
yeah,
state in our favor again. So
yeah.
how are you feeling in that
Exactly.
moment?
Yeah, very happy. Like you said, if it has felt this season, like if we don't get the goal, the crowd gets a bit anxious. The players seems like they also feel the pressure a bit more. So I'm just happy we got it early, so we didn't have to think about that.
Yeah.
And it was also pretty obvious. We had found realized how Trafford isn't good in those situations because we had several corners in the same area trying to find the guy who stood right by him. It wasn't the
Yeah.
first corner.
It was really obvious we were trying that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's one of those though. You can see again by the graphic that our XG, because Trossard's goal, he was literally a few yards out. Saliba's,
yeah,
he was
that's
basically on the line, and it's like they
yeah,
just both shoot up with those
yeah,
two chances. And again, one of my, I know we won comfortably in the end, but one of my concerns is, are those chances free flowing, clear chances? And I know you can't dismiss set pieces, but yeah, I don't know. It's a slight concern I've got, which I know we'll talk
yeah,
on later. But yeah, so you can see then on the graphic we're cruising
yeah,
statistically anyway. And we've gone 2-1 up, and you're thinking, yeah, okay, let's just do our thing now, try to see the game off. And then there's a big oof in the crowd when Vieira goes for a
yeah,
tackle, and my gut instinct from my seat in the stadium
yeah,
was that's a red. And obviously
yeah.
I couldn't see it in detail, but what was your reaction when you first saw it? Not replays or anything, just in the moment, gut instinct.
I think the same. Like
Yeah.
I hoped it would be a yellow, but like I expected it to be a red because I think if they give a yellow, they probably change it. But like, yeah, it's one of those stupid mistake.
Yeah, and I've just jumped way ahead on the timeline there, but it was I completely misread one
It
of the
didn't
timeline.
happen
But
too much anyway. So
yeah, it was a lot later in the game. I misread the substitution, which I wanted to talk about, which was Vieira obviously coming on for Havertz, and it was one of those.
yeah,
What made me want to bring that up was the whole discussion around the left eight. And yeah, it feels like no one. And we've got a question from Bobby on this in terms of Havertz positioning, right centre mid, left centre mid. So we'll do that later, Bobby, if that's all right. But in the context of this conversation, it was Havertz wasn't really pulling up any trees. Vieira came on to get his moment. We were 2-1 up. The game state felt like it kind of suited him. At half time, I actually wanted Jorginho to go off and Rice to go in the 6 and then bring Vieira on, because I thought the game would have suited him, but he kind of did an alternative and just hooked Havertz, rightly so. But yeah, what did you make of Vieira's performance before the red anyway?
Nothing much, like basically the same as Havertz. The game ran by him, it felt like. Couldn't really get into the game. And just like you, I think I even tweeted it at halftime, that assuming Trossard was fine, maybe around 60 minutes, we switch Jorginho for Vieira and play with those three in the middle instead.
Okay, I didn't see that. Yeah, great minds.
Yeah. But yeah, he didn't do anything to impress, but not much time on the pitch either, so
yeah,
who knows.
Yeah, and then in general, how did you feel? So we went 2-1 up, and how did you feel we managed that period in between that, the Saliba goal and then the Zinchenko one? So there was a 20-minute period where, again, statistically, you look at it and it doesn't look like we really did anything. But I felt okay. I felt like it was kind of similar to the first half in the sense that we were controlling the ball and the game, but didn't really feel like a clear chance was coming. I don't know how you felt.
The same, I think, more like the first half, like where we at least tried to find something, but were patient and not like I felt the first 10 minutes in the second half were like we're just passing it around for the sake of passing it around.
Yeah,
we had some purpose, but like you said, couldn't get into the right places. And when we did, we were a bit. The final pass, the final touch was off.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that has been a theme, which we'll obviously talk about later. And then getting the sequence of events correct this time. Zinchenko obviously scores his incredible goal to wrap off an impressive performance from him. Yeah, what a goal like that!
Incredible.
And I was happy for him because he's someone that I think he came in last season and he really elevated us as a team, right, in terms of what we expect and how we play, how we see the game, expectations, and he's kind of fallen out of favour. This season, and rightly so, just on performances. He hasn't been as to the level we know he can be, but I was happy for him. It was and you could see he's a very emotional character, right? So he was probably geeing up the crowd and all of this, and so you can tell if that helps him get his not that he's lost any confidence, but if that helps him, then
I know what you mean.
Yeah, then albeit that's what we need. We need everyone firing on all cylinders.
And I feel like he could be that type of confidence player. Like he needs to feel that he. Like, not that he needs the arm around the shoulder type thing, but for himself to feel like he's important, to feel that he's performing very well. I feel like if he starts questioning himself, you notice it in a drop off of his level.
I completely agree. Yeah, well said. And then so it's 3-1, and this moment I'm thinking, chill, game's done. And then this is where I will insert the comments about Vieira. He goes, this is where I meant to talk about the red card. But like we said, we kind of touched on that now. Statistically, that was the game, really.
Nothing happened really.
Yeah, it was routine. It was a case of we played the cards we were dealt in terms of how they defended against us. We found a way to get the goals and get the job done. It's an annoying goal to concede, but other than that, they didn't create anything. Look at their XG. It's just completely flat, and it's the theme this season. We defensively, we are absolutely phenomenal. It's scary. Although I did think there were periods in the game where Burnley moved the ball and got into good areas, just didn't have.
They just couldn't get the final pass, final action.
Yeah. I must say I was impressed. One thing I want to move on to is this graphic. So for people on the podcast, this is another graphic from Mark R Stats, and we have used something similar before, and it's the zone 14 and half space passes. Zone 14, for people that aren't aware, is the area just outside of the box centrally, and half space is obviously either side of it, which is where typically our right and left eights and Saka and or Martinelli and the fullbacks tend to operate in the offensive third. Why I wanted to bring this up is this, I feel, illustrates the theme that I'm seeing this season in terms of Arsenal progressing centrally. I feel like we're really struggling to access that zone 14, and teams are really packing out the middle. And I feel like we're really good at, well, are we good at it, or are teams forcing us this way to go wide, and we'll get into the half spaces and stuff? But last season, it felt like we had 3v2s everywhere in that
Yeah.
final third. And this season, we're really struggling to access it. Is that something that you found this season? Do you think that's being overblown? What do you think about that?
Bit of both. I think it's being overblown, but like I understand it. We want the perfection. We want the level up from last season, uh, but it's also an issue. Like as you see on the screen, and you can probably do that for almost every game this season.
Yeah.
Um, so something is wrong, but like I can't really get my head on how or why it's a problem. Like what's different, what are teams doing differently, and is there anything we are doing much differently? I don't really know what's the main issue.
Yeah, I think for me it's I feel like we have changed our approach in how we move up the pitch, and I feel like
Yeah,
obviously there's been a conscious effort to go a bit slow the tempo down, and I want to emphasize the word. I feel like there's been a conscious approach to do that because, I mean, I'm not saying anything new that people wouldn't have heard elsewhere, but um, based on the lessons learned from last season and Arteta wanting to go for more control, nullify transitions, but I think as a result of going that way, teams are able to settle into a defensive structure.
yeah,
They've got more time to do it, and therefore we lose the ability to kind of really punch through and catch people out and access one area, flip it, create an overload, and it's just because we slow the tempo down now, and it's like we
yeah.
really try to slowly suffocate and put a strangle on teams, and I think it's a combination of that with the change in dynamic in midfield. I think the biggest thing last season was the balance of the midfield gave the combination of creative passing, aggressive ball progression, and off the ball running. And I think we've
Yeah,
gone and got one of the best in the world at carrying, off the ball running,
yeah,
winning the ball. He's really improving at his ball progression, in my opinion. But
definitely.
the balance with him and Havertz and Odegaard's not been performing to his best ability this season.
No.
I think that for me is the biggest issue, the midfield balance, which then I think would help click in the final third. So I think it's a combination of that combined with the choice to go with the slower tempo.
Yeah, and a bit for me, I feel like we haven't had like it's not an excuse, but like we haven't had all party hasn't been fit. Odegaard has been injured. Like we don't haven't had the option of changing from due to game state. Like you often talk about finisher starters. I
Yeah.
feel like that kind of was the plan with Havertz getting in. Like he maybe wasn't supposed to start every game, but jump on some games, start, and maybe that's also like creating an issue because we haven't been able to use Party and Rice together in some games, and in some games getting Party on later, for example, because that's something I think was the plan to not use Party as much, and now he's been injured anyway. So, but
Yeah.
like,
I think so as well. I think that it's all single points of failure, right? And like as good as I think he is on the ball, his availability is is an issue.
yeah,
And again, it looks like I think the latest is that he potentially won't be back until the new year, right? So
yeah,
yeah, concerns there. But I think it's something that I've look, I've been not complaining, but I've been raising this concern that we're still getting the points. We're obviously doing okay in the league. Well, I say okay, we're literally joint second, so we're
Yeah.
we're 1 point behind Man City, and the fact that I'm going, we're doing okay, speaks volumes about the levels that
Yeah.
we've gone to. But it's one of those statistically that we're defensively we're absolutely fantastic. Offensively, there's room for improvement, and it's two ways that it can go, right? One is the whole, is this just our ceiling as an attack, or the second is the front three haven't really played together and we haven't really clicked yet, so it could be frightening if we do. So it's one of those, one to monitor, but I trust Arteta so much to just
100%. 100%.
he is so good at just finding solutions to things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is
And
that
that's why
sorry,
I
go on.
sometimes can get annoyed when I look at Twitter, like tacticals. I love them because you learn so much more from the game, but sometimes they are very stubborn and feel like their ideas are perfect and correct and like just change this thing and everything works.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm probably a bit like to trust Arteta too much and like he will solve it. But like if it was just as easy as, for example, a very common thing, make Ødegaard left 8, for example. If it was just that easy,
He would have
why
done
hasn't Arteta done it?
it. I'm
Maybe
always
if that's
fascinated.
the solution in the end, but like if it's only that thing, which I feel like some people talk about, like just switch Havertz and Ødegaard, for example, and it will click perfectly. For me,
Well,
it's not
you're
that
gonna
easy.
love one of the questions that we've got lined up for later then. But that was just, like I said, that was a graphic that I thought illustrates quite nicely what we're up against this season. Teams essentially packing out the middle, forcing us to go wide, and when we do go wide, the middle's packed and there's no door through. So we're doing well, all things considered. It's just it would be nice to see us create chances consistently, but Man City are struggling with it. So it's maybe it's just the next evolution of the Premier League in terms of
could be,
tactical defending. When we're watching it in front of our eyes. But before we move on, we've got my mate Uncle Mike. He's in the house. Evening, lads, and Mike's off to my motherland Goa soon. So have a lovely time, mate. Enjoy rest up in the international break. So before we go on to questions, was there any more that you wanted to cover from the specific Burnley game?
No, I think we've covered it well.
Nice. One thing, so I'm gonna, before I go into the questions that have actually come up, and guys that are in the chat, whack them in because we're doing good for time for once. So got plenty of time to answer questions. I wanted to mention the stuff going around about Ramsdale. I don't know if you've seen some of the comments from his dad, and what do you think of the quotes that have come out? And
the quotes aren't great. Like, why is he doing an interview? Like, I don't really understand it. And if you do an interview, you shouldn't really talk about your son and his position, at least not in that way. I get it. I probably would have done the same if it was my kid, but like, you shouldn't put yourself or him in that position because he either gets support or he puts hate or pressure on Raya. So it's a lose-lose situation for both parties, I feel. But like, I have some sort of sympathy because I don't know if you saw that, but like I think it was 1 week ago or something like that, where Raya's agent had done some sort of interview or something as well, where he mentioned he was the first choice when they signed Ramsdale, etc. And that's unnecessary as well. And you can say the agent isn't in control of Raya isn't in control of the agent, but he knows what's going on. They probably talked about it in some extent. An agent doesn't go rogue in that way either. So
I'm again very similar to you. I'm very understanding of how disappointing it can be, especially with the nature of the team he came in, but and the team he's kind of grown into, and he obviously was part of a title challenging team, and then to get displaced. But then on the other hand, I'm just thinking the same thing happened to Leno when he came in, and granted, it was two different evolutions of Arsenal, but Same thing happened previously. And if we
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
be this elite team that we know all can be, that we all
Yeah,
know we can be this absolutely elite team, that's the level. And if our manager, who we all trust, feels he's seen, like, regardless of whether we think Raya or Ramsdale are equal in ability or very similar, our manager, who has shown us he is at that level to take us
yep,
to challenging for the title against this absolute juggernaut, he's made a decision that he thinks he can get more from that
exactly.
position. And I just think there's a way
And
to go about it. Like, keep your head down, work hard, and when you get a chance, take it. That's how
yeah,
you have to do it.
exactly. And you did that, that famous pod he did do when Trossard was signed. The clip from that pod where he says like Trossard is coming in to take his place and it's going to raise Saka, Martinelli, Jesus level because they know that and they want to keep their place.
Yeah,
It's the exact same scenario, different position, and goalkeepers are normally a bit different, but the mentality should still be the same.
yeah,
I'm being challenged now. I've got to prove myself. So let's go. Like if you hadn't done, and you always want the players to talk, but like it's hard to sympathize when you say one thing and your dad then like maybe you don't feel that, but it's hard to believe that your dad doesn't know in some way what's going on and how you're feeling.
yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like there's certain things I agree. Like, it's nice to see players talk and kind of have their
Yeah,
personality out there, but there's certain things where you just feel like just be professional and
yeah,
kind of keep your head down, keep things in house, and work hard. Like, people aren't idiots; they'll be able to. People will know. Like, you'll be disappointed. It'll be weird if he wasn't, but there's a
yeah,
way to respond to it, I guess. And I think his dad going and doing this is probably not the greatest, but yeah, that's
yeah.
where are you at on David Raya, out of interest?
I think like everyone, he hasn't impressed very much, but like I still think I feel a bit calmer with him in goal. I don't know if it's just, and you know how much I have rated Ramsdale. I wasn't convinced. I think we spoke in the summer when we signed Raya. I didn't understand it because,
Yeah,
yeah, we could improve Ramsdale, but I didn't think Raya was that much better.
yeah,
Um, but he just feels calmer. I feel like he's in a position to claim crosses more easily. He is more aggressive in those positions, and I think that makes me and it feels like the backline a bit calmer.
yeah. I feel the same. Every now and then I feel like he holds on the ball a little bit too long and invites pressure where people get quite close to closing him down. But I think that's
Yeah,
part and parcel of what you're going to get. But
yeah,
overall, though, because I'm someone that I put myself out there, I'd say I was quite critical of Ramsdale, and I really believed it was a position that I thought we could significantly upgrade. And I'll put my hands up and say I don't think I've seen that.
yeah,
Yeah, I can see what Raya brings to the team that Ramsdale doesn't, in terms of that composure and ability to slow it down. Um, but yeah, there's been a lot of, even the Newcastle goal. I know it shouldn't have been a goal, but
yeah.
if he just claims the ball or gets rid of it, we're not even having a conversation about VAR. So
Nope.
yeah, I do feel like the margins are finer than I thought they'd be. Let's just say
Yeah,
that. But it's a long season, so let's see.
yeah.
Um,
Raya has also gotten away with it a bit because we have the Havertz. He hasn't clicked either. So like, if we had clicked, been as fluid as we were last season, Raya would have been even more under pressure because
yeah,
then he would have been the biggest issue. Now you have the creativity issue with zone 14, etc. So he's probably been lucky in that regard, I think.
yeah, exactly. And it'll be interesting because obviously first game after the international break is Brentford away, which he won't be able to
Yep.
play in. So yeah, let's see how Ramsdale deals with that. Next question we've got is from my man Bobby, and yeah, it made me laugh because it was similar to what you were discussing earlier. So Bobby's
Yeah.
actually put two questions in, and I'm going to combine them. So first of
Yep.
all was sorry for tuning in late. Do not worry. So you might have discussed, but how do you think Havertz has looked at right centre midfield? Thought his first half performance was much better than what we've seen at left centre mid. And then to add on to that, he said, would like to see a switch of Odegaard and Havertz sides and see if that can possibly free the spaces for Saka a bit more on the wing and then bring Martinelli more into place centrally with Odegaard on his side. So there's a lot of information there, but I guess it's the
Yeah.
general discussion point
Havertz.
on
Yeah.
Havertz, where's his best position, and the kind of left centre mid options, right centre mid, and Odegaard. So, floor is yours. Where's your head at with all of that?
As you probably know, seeing your new pod, I'm a bit mixed, but like I'm not sure Howard's best position. He knows, Arteta knows, he has an idea, but I think like you said, we haven't had this rotation in midfield because we have issues in one or two positions all the time, so we haven't gotten settled midfield. But I wouldn't mind seeing Ødegaard at left 8, but will it be an improvement? I don't know, because I think Havertz at left 8 probably can perform to a level he has done at right 8. For me, it more seems like it's the type of games he thrives in, like Newcastle, high pace, many duels, like fast. Sevilla, the same. So I'm not convinced it's the right centre mid he's better at, or if it's the specific games, like game states from those games.
That's really interesting, actually. I hadn't really made that connection in terms of, I guess, more transitional games that suits him, right? Yeah,
exactly.
It's a really good point. For what it's worth, I'm not sure about Odegaard left centre mid. I think the one thing that I'm noticing a lot is the connection between him and Saka and the lanes that they used to have open. That's all nullified. So it's immediately kind of cutting the supply between the two, right? And so I think that obviously isn't helping. But then we saw Odegaard in the left centre mid role against West Ham. He scored, like ran into the space quite nicely. So in terms of what Bobby actually said, would it actually free the spaces for Saka a bit more on the wing, and would it bring Martinelli into play centrally? I can see that. Yeah, that's a really good point. And there has been phases in games where Saka's actually gone drifting a little bit into central zones, which has been quite nice.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's one. It's just, I would be up, to be honest, I would be up for seeing fluid rotation of players in different zones in game, just because I feel like teams are very comfortable with the structure they're able to bring against us because they know the patterns and the zones people are going to occupy. So that's what I quite like about the unpredictability of moving things around and still maintaining our positional play, but just changing the personnel that occupy the different zones, I think.
And it should be able to like have, say, Ødegaard mainly as a right 8, but he should be able to float, and Havertz, even Vieira is comfortable on both sides, so like it should be possible. And as you said, the Saka Ødegaard, it feels like teams are setting up to like nullify that, to either get very close to Ødegaard or like stop his angles to Saka, so they don't get the same interplay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I feel like the classic move was like the ball would get progressed from the first phase into the second. It would then go laterally to Odegaard. It would then go laterally to Saka. We're overloaded on that point. And then it was like Saka spaced out was Odegaard, spaced out was Xhaka, spaced out was Martinelli. And then it was Jesus in there. And it was like the positioning was just absolutely bang on last season. And it feels like teams have really cut that supply and the spaces, and that's where I think we need to be quite creative with how we go around it. And you can see it in the nature of the questions and the talking points, right? Everyone is fundamentally, the theme is coming back to fluidity and trying to mix things up, and it'll be really interesting to see what Arteta does about this. But a question for a bit: do you think Arteta is even concerned about the fluidity or perceived fluidity, let's say?
Probably, because like if we can see it, he definitely seen it as well. But I also think isn't super worried, because if he was, he probably would have done bigger changes, tested Ødegaard left centre mid, or done something more drastic. But he hasn't, so he probably doesn't think it's just as easy as doing one thing. It's you have to increase the tempo. He talked about that before the Sevilla game. We need to move the ball faster, get better tempo, because when we do that, we get better in better zones. So I think he's worried, but not like he doesn't go sleepless at night.
Yeah, it's true. And obviously all of this has to bear in mind the injury list as well. It's been absolutely ridiculous. I think with last season, we were able to put out the first 11, especially the first half of the season, pretty much every week.
Yeah.
And this season, it's constantly there's someone missing, there's someone missing, there's someone missing, and the fact that we are where we are, this is why I'm choosing to go with the narrative that we haven't clicked yet, and we've
Yeah.
still got all of these big guns to come back. And boy,
Yeah.
oh boy, if we top the Champions League group, if we're in and around the top of the league in February, like 2-3 points, and then we've got everyone coming back, who knows what we can achieve this season. And I guess with that in mind, like guys, if you're still in the chat and you've got any more questions, we'll look to wrap up soon, so get them in. But what are your hopes and ambitions for the season, given where we're at so far?
The league is always tough because you know how good City are. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if they from now on went and won every game. Like, they can do that. They won't, but they could. And we probably won't do that. Like, they've done it too many times, and we've done it. We haven't even done it once yet. They probably hit 90 if they need to.
Yeah.
We need to hit 94, 95 at least, probably to win, because they will hit minimum 90, I believe.
Do you think they will hit minimum 90 again this season? Well, I say again, they did 89 last year, didn't they?
Yeah, like, but if they would have needed 90, they probably So it's tough. You never know, because I think it depends on how much we push them and how much Liverpool push them. But if they need it, I think they get 90 plus. If that's enough to win, I don't know. But the league, I believe, is tough to win because they are just a juggernaut in the league. Champions League, I think, suits our team very well. Like you talked before, the wingers aren't doubled up nearly as much, and we have seen that in every game so far. Martinelli, Saka, I think they were top 2. I saw some graphic of dribbles, successful dribbles or something. They were top 2 for Champions League players. And we have Rice, I think he's extremely suited to it.
Transition, it really feels like that signing was just like I want to win the Champions League.
yeah, it feels like that. And I think Champions League is our best bet.
I think
FA Cup, of course, but like if you want to talk the 2 top trophies, I think Champions League is the best one we have.
Yeah, I really do agree. And then final question before we wrap up is on the fluidity, fully fit team. Do you think it is a case of when everyone's fit and we're playing teams, we will get back to consistent, clear chances and the perceived fluidity being more flow based, or is it something that you're actually concerned about?
I am concerned, but I think and hope we get back to it because I think we should. I have always believed, like you spoke about it a lot last season and start of this season, the finisher starters. I think, especially now that Partey has shown he isn't available all the time, he can't be used as a starter every game. He can't. It's not going to work. So with that, I think we will see a lot of rotations with Odegaard, Partey, Jorginho, Havertz, and I think that will benefit because we will be more difficult to break down when teams don't know what to expect, because if we have a game where we are not good at after 45 minutes, we switch one of those guys around and we maybe bring Trossard on for some, and it's suddenly a different dynamic. So I think if everyone's fit, at least we have more unpredictability. So I think it should click better.
Yeah, and this is why I'm trying to go down the narrative of like it's quite frightening that we are where we are, given the injuries we've had, and just imagine if we do get to that February-March period and we're in touch and distance everywhere, and people
imagine
come back
and fit then as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I've gone 53 minutes without even saying good day, mate, to that lot down the road. That I kind of touched on it at the start, but that was more to illustrate the kind of context of going to the game on Saturday without being a shithouse. Like it just made me laugh. I actually said when I saw Van der Ven and Maddison was injured, Romero was suspended. I actually said I don't see them winning any of their next 3, which was obviously Wolves just gone, Aston Villa coming up, and then Man City. And I still believe that. I think, not to make it about Tottenham, but like I do think offensively they have looked good this season, but defensively I don't know how they've got away with it. I think they have so many vulnerabilities that
Yeah,
just haven't been exposed somehow.
yeah, same. I think they've been a bit lucky that Van der Ven has been at the level he has been. Like,
Yeah,
but I don't think it was sustainable. Like, even if he performed very well, I don't think he could cover and be as good as he has been. Still a
yeah,
very good center back, but like his pace with Romero has been brilliant for them.
yeah.
But I think we should have exposed them more.
I agree.
City would expose them Liverpool. I feel like they have somehow, like you say, gotten away with it. I feel,
Yeah,
and when they got those injuries, I had them locked in for top four, but I don't think they get top four now.
really.
Maybe
I
if they
really
get
hope you're
everyone
right.
fit,
Yeah,
but like Madison's injured till January at least. Same with Van der Ven, and without those two, Lo Celso is their Madison replacement. Like
yeah,
not the same level.
yeah.
I
It's
think they
one of
will
the.
struggle.
Yeah, I think and hope you're right. It was. I was never worried about them in a title
No,
context, and I think that's the thing
no,
that, like, obviously my hatred for them goes deep, but it's the sheer biased and naivety of
yeah,
them. It happens every year. Like, I've been here, seen this rodeo every time, and
yeah,
granted, it does feel different under this fat guy that manages them, but like yeah, again, they've got a vision that they can get behind, but there's a ceiling to them this season, and
yeah.
it felt like they were genuinely believing their own hype. So never worried about title race. I, like you,
No,
had them locked for top four, and I'm hoping that the injuries derail that, because even though we're all about Arsenal and like fuck them, it's still nice to know that there's some misery in their life still.
yeah,
So
yeah.
fingers crossed.
You're always happy when Spurs lose. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, like I say at the start of the episode, walking over, I think it was the Ken Fryer Bridge, walking to the stadium, and just hearing everyone start chanting, everyone straight on the phone to figure out what had happened. Yeah, it was very funny. So yeah, long may their misery continue. But that's a wrap. That was everything. And I don't know if you've got anything else that you want to end on, anything that you want to bring up to chat about.
yeah, I think we've covered the most. So
Cool.
I'm happy.
Nice one, brilliant. And yeah, like I said, it was lovely to have you on. Obviously, you've been one of, like Bobby, like Mike, like Hassan. There's a few of you that are like regular listeners, and you've been one of them since the start of the pod. So yeah, thanks a lot. It's always appreciate the amount that you share and support and give us love. It
Yeah,
really means a lot. And yeah, it was nice to. Obviously, it was the first time we've actually met. Well, I say
yeah,
met
yeah.
through a webcam, but
Yeah, we
yeah,
haven't. Yeah,
yeah, it was really nice to put a face to the
we
name.
were
So
supposed to last year at the Bournemouth
yeah.
game, but your glasses.
My glasses got broken, yeah, and we didn't
Yeah,
even go on to win the league. So,
nope.
yeah, but yeah, everyone that joined us, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the international break. We will be back in just over a week. Obviously, we've got Brentford away to return to in the Premier League as we look to hit the ground running again, heading into the Christmas period. So. We were the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I was your host, Clayton, and I was joined by our good friend Pontus. So yeah, thanks again, mate. Really appreciate you having
Thank you.
spending the time to come on. And yeah, up the Arsenal and enjoy the international break. Cheers, everyone.